Class is in session, yes. So tonight, as you can see, we're covering Genki 1, Lesson 2. It's the new version. So just to cover quickly what we're going to be going over tonight, we're going to be going over this and that in Japanese, here and there, whose, to as in you too and stuff like that, negative statements, remember last week we covered positive statements, and useful sentence enders. We've also got Hadrian and Alberto and Sophia's Animation Studio and... Oh, there's Miguel again. All right. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here again. This time for lesson 2. Oops, I skipped into the next part already. Yeah, how is everyone feeling? Before we jump into it, anyone that's watching on the replay, I just want to let you know that there's going to be timestamps down either in the description or in the comment, so that if you don't want to go through the questions or any sidetracks, you can just jump to the next section. I'm going to try and go through the sections without stopping, and then at the end of each section, I'll pause for a question and answer session just to make sure everyone's following. And if you don't want to go watch that, you can just hit a timestamp and jump onto the next thing. So, anyone know which video to start on? Is that which video in general? Probably the lesson 1 video or the greetings video, if we're talking about on my channel. But if we're talking about other channels, I'm not sure. So, is everyone ready? I think everyone's ready. So, let me just get a drink of water before we get started. All right. So, the first section of Genki 1 Lesson 2 is this and that in Japanese. It's pretty straightforward, actually. It's just kore, which means this, something near you. So if I was talking about this little green ball right here, I would say kore, this. That is sore. Now, there's 2 versions of that. One is something that is near another person. So if something was next to, for example, Dan, and I wanted to ask him what that was, I would use sore because it's next to him. Now, if something was off in the distance and far away from both of us, then I would use are. Okay. Now, dore is which. Dore is not just which, though. You can't use it with 2 things. It has to be 3 or more things. We're not covering it today, but for only 2 things, you would actually ask dochi, which is a short version of dochira. But don't worry about that too much right now. Just know that dore is for 3 or more things. Now, non-specific this, that, and which, you'll notice, ends in de. So, ko is always for the thing that's closest to you. So signifies something that's off in the distance for everything we're going to be covering next to another person. And a, the first character being a, when we're talking about words that point, the first character being a is someone far away, not near anybody. And do is always going to be a WH question, basically. Who, what, which, where. But you'll see. And if it ends in de, it's this, that, or which, but non-specific, right? So, that's that. So here are some very simple sentences using kore sore, are and dore. The first sentences are kore, this, sore, that, are, that, dore, which. Pretty straightforward, right? So, let's go over some actual sentences, though. Now, those words can be used alone, just like in English. This, right? If someone asks you a question, and you're like, is this what you're talking about? This. But anyway, some actual sentences. The first one would be, kore wa nan desu ka? What is this? This is such a common sentence. You're going to learn it. You're going to use it all the time. So you can learn this sentence on its own, to be honest, because it's so common that you should just learn it on its own, because you're going to use it all the time. Kore wa nan desu ka? So maybe I'll look at this. Kore wa nan desu ka? And it's a tie clip that Yuki made with mizuhiki, which is Japanese paper art, basically. But it's hard. It's like a tie clip. But anyway, kore wa nan desu ka? What's this? To break it down a little bit, nan means what? And let me bring up my pointer. Nan means what? Kore is, of course, this. And desu ka, you'll remember from last week, is a question, right? What is this? Kore wa nan desu ka? Our next sentence is, それはピカチュウです。それはピカチュウです。That is Pikachu. In Japanese, Pikachu, the Pokemon, is Pikachu. There's a lot of Pokemon that are actually completely different in both English and Japanese, but some of them, ones that don't necessarily have like a special meaning in Japanese, often come over to the English. Pika, by the way, Pika Pika, means, I think, like electricity. It's the sound electricity makes, right? I'm almost positive about that. Yeah, it's the sound electricity makes. So his name is Pikachu. All right. それはピカチュウです. That Pokemon over there next to you. All right. Our next sentence is あれは何ですか? So it's the same as これは何ですか? But in this case, it's something that's off in the distance. あれは何ですか? And the answer to that might be, if there's more than three, or three or more things. どれ? どれ? わかんない. I don't understand. Lynn says, Nani? Yuki, Dan and Sil Marie say, hello. All right, so as we've been doing in all our new lessons, and one of the big reasons I'm doing the new lessons, like I didn't have these in the old versions of the lessons. So this is one of the main reasons I've started over again. And it's these conversation pieces, the dialogues. So let's go over the dialogues. I'm going to read it once at a slow pace, and then one more time at a normal pace. And then I'll go over each line and explain what they mean in English. So let's start with person A and B. これはおいしいですか? B. 何ですかそれ? That wasn't slow, was it? 何ですかそれ? これは納豆ですよ. 知らない. Alright, let's go over a normal pace. これはおいしいですか? 何ですかそれ? これは納豆ですよ. 知らない. All right, so let's go over the English for each of these. Montana Margot said, why is it ga instead of ka? Let's go back really quickly and check. I don't think there's any gas. Nope, we don't have any gas. It's all kas, I think. All right, so let's go over the English translations. All right, our first sentence was, これはおいしいですか? The translation for that is, does this taste good? We've got これ there, right? Does this taste good? おいしい is tastes good. If you don't know that word yet, you're going to want to learn it as quickly as possible because it's an extremely common word in Japanese. It's literally translated as delicious. But in Japan, when people eat, so let me just give you an example quickly before I go into this story. In America, when we eat dinner or when we eat anything, we'll generally eat it. And maybe in the middle of eating it or at the end of eating it, we'll mention that it was good or not, right? We'll say, oh, that was delicious, like after the meal, right? We don't necessarily talk about it much while we're eating. Maybe we might say, oh, this is really good or something like that. But for Japanese people, it's not just very common. It's almost expected for the moment the food hits their tongue, the moment, sometimes before it hits their tongue, for them to say, oishii, like it's delicious. And I swear they haven't actually tasted it yet. It's barely hit their mouth. But they just say it immediately. Oishii. Are you sure? You haven't even bitten it yet. But anyway, you're going to hear it all the time in Japanese. Most variety shows in Japan are going to have a segment where they're trying food. And every single person, oishii, wa oishii. That's the main way of describing food in general. So you'll get used to it pretty quickly. All right, B says, 何ですかそれ? So you'll notice that this sentence says それ, but it's not where you would expect it to be. It's not at the beginning of the sentence. This sentence would normally be それは何ですか? But in conversation, you often mix up words. And that's what particles are really helpful with. Like, it doesn't matter really where you put things because if the particle comes after it, you know what it's supposed to be. But a lot of times you can even drop particles. So it's okay a lot of times to mix mix up where you put things. It's not maybe grammatically correct officially, but in conversation, Japanese people do this all the time. So in this case, 何ですか? それ is what's that? Perfectly okay. If you were to make this sentence using just Genki grammar, it would come out as それは何ですか? But a much more conversational and, I guess, not impolite, but informal way of saying it is 何ですか? それ. All right. Our next sentences were これは納豆ですよ. This is natto. And in yellow and blue, I have I tell you. That's the yo particle or marker. We're going to cover that at the end of this lesson, so stick around if you want to learn how to use yo, because I'm going to teach you that in the last section. But it shows up in a couple of the dialogues along the way, so in this case, it just means, I'm telling you. Seriously, something like that. The final sentence is 知らない, which is the informal way to say, I don't know. The mas form, or the more polite version, would be 知りません. I don't know. Now this verbs don't really show up in Genki until lesson 3. That's going to be next week, and that's a tough lesson. It's the toughest lesson in the book. It's where everyone gets hung up. It's probably where a lot of you watching right now discovered me from. And that lesson is why I began teaching Japanese. The mas lesson, lesson 3. It's the reason not the reason I started teaching Japanese. It's the reason I started teaching from Genki, because it needs a better explanation than what's in the book. Although the 3rd edition is a little bit better. But anyway, 知らない is a verb that means to, 知る is a verb that means to know. 知らない is the negative conjugation of to know, which means that it means 知らない. You don't need to worry about the conjugation right now. You could just memorize the word 知らない, which means I don't know. All right. And that is the end of the first section, which was just this and that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the questions. If you're watching this on the replay, just so you know, there's timestamps down in the comments or in the description. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them yet, but you can skip right to the beginning of the next section and skip over these questions if you're not interested in following them. All right, so how's everyone doing? Did everyone get all that? Let's see what we've got. We've got, why is it ga instead of ka, said Montana Margot, my grandmother. I don't think there was a ga. I think it was ka. The question marker will always be ka. It would need two little like it looks like quotation marks after it for it to be ga. It's Melvin says banana no hito, banana person. Yeah, where is the person throwing bananas? Dan says yes, Yuki is the banana keeper. Good sentences get bananas from Yuki. I say oishii like every day, says Come to Japan Dan. Yep, me too. Banana wa oishii desu. Yes, they are delicious. Excellent sentence, Ian. You get a banana. Banana wa amai desu, says Dan. That's a sentence from last week. Bananas are sweet, yes. Silmarie says, yes, I just realized that about particles. Doesn't matter the order, but particles will identify it. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, no problem. It's a really cool feature of Japanese. And in conversation, a lot of times you drop the markers, but certain ones you can't drop. But you'll learn that over time. But in the beginning, just know that sentences can be mixed up. Like there's no special, there's not really a special format in Japanese. Things get mixed and matched when you're speaking. It's Melvin says, watashi wa banana ga kirai desu. Ah, it's Melvin hates bananas. Oh no. Maybe you can have an apple or something. Ian says, I was traumatized from natto because I didn't know what it was when I ate it. Same thing happened to me, man. My first week in Japan, very first week, that's not true. It was my second week, but I had just come to the city I live in. Like I had trained down in Okayama. And I took the train up here, and at the train station, my new coworker met me and said, hey, it's my birthday. Come to my birthday party tonight, the moment I arrived in Nagano. So I went to her birthday party, and they were playing a game called Russian roulette. Not the kind where you die. It's the kind where you have cupcakes, and inside there's either good filling or not so good filling. The not so good filling, it turns out, was wasabi and natto. I didn't know what natto was, and of course, that's the one I got. And it wasn't even like the good kind of natto, which I've come to like now, like the kind with the full bean. It was like the sliced up bean ones. And I don't even like that now. But man, that shit destroyed me. It was terrible. I almost threw up. And a couple weeks later, someone else had a birthday party. And I went. And they were playing this stupid game, Russian roulette again. And guess who got another natto cupcake? This guy. So I couldn't eat natto for 2 years. I tried it like once and I think I threw up. And that's why I made a TikTok that actually did really, really well. It got like 1 million views on natto because it was such a rough thing. And telling that story is always fun. But finally, 2 years later, I had good natto at like a ryokan, like at a Japanese hotel. And it was actually good natto. And somehow my taste developed to actually like it. And now I eat it almost every day. Dan says, that is the worst questions. Ian says, ate it at a hamazushi and was very surprised. Ooh, hamazushi natto. I don't even think I would eat that now. I can't eat hamazushi. They have the cut up natto at hamazushi. I love hamazushi, but not natto. The Red Value. Good to see you here, man. Red Value is a YouTuber, and he's joined TikTok recently. Been making some fun stuff. これはペンです. Yes, it is. Yuki says, 読んだ? Banana 読んだ. Yes. Romora says, how do you say which one is your pen? For example, you still use dore. It depends. If there's more than 2 pens, if there's 3 pens out on the table, and someone asks which pen is yours, you could say, if you've already talked about the pen, どれが Andy no pen desu, for example. Which one is Andy's pen? どれが Dore no pen? Dono pen. We're going specific. If we want to use the word pen, yeah, we'll get to that. Dono pen ga Andy no desu ka. But we'll get to that. If you want to use dore, you couldn't say the word pen. Dore ga Andy no pen desu ka would work, but there's a better word for that, which is coming next. It's Melvin. Banana. Dozo Melvin. Miguel says, I'm going to start yelling oishii at my mom whenever she cooks now. Do it. Gregory, welcome. He says, hi. Oh, he woke up early. Okimasen deshita. He didn't wake up early. He missed part of the class. No worries, man. You didn't miss too much. A hot pepper. Nice. I recently went to Kanaguya Ryokan, which is near Nagano. Really? I don't know where Kanaguya Ryokan is, but Nagano is awesome. I like it here. All right, guys. So thank you for asking questions, and it's good to see some of the guys that have shown up just now here. Someone just became a Patreon. Wendell Anderson. Thank you so much. You're a patron saint. I really appreciate that. I just got the message right now. Thank you so much if you're watching, Wendell. All right, so moving on to specific this and that in Japanese. Specific this and that in Japanese, you'll notice some similarities to kore, sore, ano, and dono, and that is the first character, right? We've got ko. Let's bring up my pointer. Ko, so, a, and do. The difference is the last character in the word is no. Kono, sono, ano, dono. So those first characters signify the same thing that they did with kore, sore, ano, and dore. That is something near you, kono, a specific something near you, we'll get to that, which is this near you. Sono, that, something near someone else, and you're talking to them. Ano, something that's near nobody, it's off in the distance. And dono, which is once again which, but it's for 3 or more things, and it's for a specific something. So let's go over some quick sentences. A difference between kore and kono. I just sort of covered it a little bit, but the main difference is that kono requires a noun. You must have a noun that comes immediately after kono when you use kono. Kore does not require a noun. In fact, if you want to say this noun, you're going to use kono, not kore. All right. So here are some super simple sentences to get us started. So, kono hon. Kono hon. That's this book. Hon is book. One thing I want to mention really quick, if you've gotten this far into the lesson, you've noticed that I am using kanji in these lessons. Now, you don't need to learn all these kanji yet, but I just want to get you used to actually seeing them and knowing what vocabulary is those kanji represent. And it's much easier to read on screen when there's kanji dividing things up. But I will throw furigana above the kanji whenever a new kanji shows up. I'm not going to throw it up for every single word if it, like, hon shows up 4 times on this page, right? I'm only going to show it the furigana, which is the hiragana above the kanji. It's called furigana 1 time. But hopefully you'll be able to read it from here on. So, kono hon, this book. Sono hon, that book. Next to somebody else, right? Or someone is holding that book. Ano hon, the book way over there on the shelf that I want someone to get for me. Dono hon, So there's a bookshelf, and I want to know which book my friend wants. どの本? Which book? All right, nice and simple sentences. So let's jump into something a little bit more complicated. Our first sentence is この本は面白いですか? Is this book interesting? この本は面白いですか? この本は面白いですか? All right, so この本, right? We've got a noun. Book is a noun, obviously. この本. So if we're talking about a book, we need この for this book. 面白い is interesting in some situations, but it can also mean funny. So it would sort of depend on the context when you were asking this. If it was like a comedy book, like for example, a Discworld book or something, and someone was asking you, is this book funny? It would be the same sentence. この本は面白いですか? Is this book funny? But maybe if it was like a philosophy book or something, if someone said この本は面白いですか? They're probably not asking if it's funny. They're probably asking if it's interesting. So it can be a little confusing using this word for both 面白い and being funny and interesting. But you kind of get used to it. And you'll find that in many situations, there are other words that you will use to ask if, or to talk about something being funny. Like actually like ha 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 funny. I've found that I use a word called 受ける more often when I want to suggest that something is funny. But you wouldn't use that in this question. Like you wouldn't say この本は受けるですか? Like you wouldn't say that. Doesn't work. But anyway, moving on to our next sentence. そのポケモンはピカチュウですか? Is that Pokemon Pikachu? Did you guys know that Pokemon in Japanese is Pokemon? It's the same thing. Came right out of Japanese. All right. Is that Pokemon Pikachu? そのポケモンはピカチュウですか? All right. I have the same sentence, but it's off in the distance, and we have sort of a response. あのポケモンはピカチュウですか? So we see a couple, maybe 3 or 4 Pokemon off in the distance, and I say, あのポケモンはピカチュウですか? And the person that I'm with responds with, どのポケモン? He can't see any Pokemon. I'm probably hallucinating. Oh well. Hadrian Ro says, or Rox, I don't know. Can we say この元気の本? I would say この本は元気ですか? If you say この元気の本, it sounds kind of like you're saying this energetic book. So you might want to be careful with that one. It would probably make more sense to say この本は元気ですか? That actually sounds the same. I guess you could say この元気の本. Yuki ちゃん、この元気の本って、言えるよね. You can say that, absolutely. All right, 面白い. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the questions in a few minutes. All right. どのポケモン? Which Pokemon? All right, it's time for our conversation practice. So A and B again. この本はいくらですか? どの本? この本。あ、その本ですね。1000円です。ありがとうございます。All right, let's read that full speed. この本はいくらですか? どの本? この本。あ、その本ですね。1000円です。ありがとうございます。All right, let's go over that line by line. Sorry, the furigana showed up there a little bit later. The first sentence was この本はいくらですか? How much is this book? So we've got specific this この plus 本. この本はいくらですか? いくら means how much, and ですか is of course a question. So いくらですか means how much does that cost? So if a store clerk was holding an item and you want to buy it, but you want to know how much it costs, you could say いくらですか? Or maybe you could go back and use それ because they're holding the thing. それはいくらですか? But if you're just holding a book yourself, you could ask この本はいくらですか? And since I'm holding it, you would say, if you were asking, その本はいくらですか? Alright, so moving on. Our next sentence was どの本? Which book? I guess I don't see the book. この本. This book. Pretty straightforward, right? Alright. その本ですね. 1000円です. So you'll notice here that I have ne highlighted in blue with yellow font. That is another particle that's coming up later in the lesson, right along with the yo particle. And I'm going to cover what it means more there. So stick around if you want to learn about that. But this sentence in general says, you could translate that to the same thing in English. I understand now. その本ですね. That book. Got it. Ne can be used in this way. This isn't the way that Genki teaches in this lesson, but it's another meaning of ne, which I'll cover a little bit later. It's 1,000 yen. 1000 yen desu. So I didn't bring up the furigana. N is, of course, the currency here in Japan. I don't have any on me at the moment. But I'll show you guys sometime. Maybe I'll do a video on different currencies here, but I'm sure you could find it pretty quickly if you Googled the different currency here. But anyway, 1000 yen desu. That book. Got it. It's 1,000 yen. ありがとうございます. Thank you. Thank you very much, really, with the ございます. All right, that brings us to the end of section 2. So I'm going to take a look at chat and see what I missed and see what everyone is up to. All right, thanks, Wendell. おはようございます. Good morning. ありがとうございます, says Yuki. Yeah, I never know how to follow the lessons because I'm not sure if I need to learn the kanji before going forward to the next one. I would say that you don't need to learn the kanji before going to the next one. Learn them as you go along. Try to pick them up. I would personally try using a tool other than Genki to learn the kanji. Genki doesn't really do a great job of teaching kanji. There's lots of tools out there like Wanikani, remembering the kanji. There's actual books for Japanese kids that are good for learning kanji. There's lots of different tools out there. Genki is not the best one. So don't worry if you don't know the kanji right away. Unless, obviously, if you're taking a course that you need to learn them for, just try to break them down into their parts and, learn them one by one. But you don't need to necessarily wait to move on to the next lesson until you finish the kanji. Ian said, I personally just read the furigana in Genki. I would recommend making Anki flashcards for the kanji vocab for each lesson. Gonna do that today. I agree with Ian. That's a great idea. Omoshiroi reminds me of Ryuku from Death Note. Yeah. Can we say kono genki no hon? Yes. Okay. I think you have to end that sentence with this. You don't have to. But you can. You can actually drop des in most situations if you want to, especially in conversation. Yuki says, yes, you can. Desu ka? Sorry, no worries. Ooh, there's a lot more going on here. En, thank you. Kono genki no hon wa takai desu yo. Yeah, that's a perfect sentence. Actually, great sentence, Patrick. Hopefully Yuki will send you some bananas. Alberto Lin, konbanwa. Sono hon no namae wa Genki desu ka? There's a great sentence. Yes, is that book's name Genki? Perfect sentence. Why do you say sen and not senen? So I just got criticized on TikTok tonight because I did a video that was going over some of the dialogue in Genki as a practice section or as an example for a challenge that's on the Patreon. And a Japanese person said I should work on my usage of en because what I was saying sounded like nen, as in year. So sen nen. So it sounds like I was saying 1,000 years instead of 1,000 yen. So sen. Yuki, 言ってみて。止まる。1000. Usually Yuki will actually, if you're saying it together, you skip the n, the n in sen. Sen. There's sort of like a pause there. If you were to say it slowly, sen-en. Sen-en. But usually people are speaking fast when they're telling you amounts like that, so they would just say sen. Sen. Why do you say, why does the sound of n get dropped when saying the price? So it didn't get dropped. I think I was saying it. Sen-en. So I wasn't saying sen. I was sort of skipping the last n in sen and saying en. Sen en. Sen en. So it's sort of hard to hear. But it's a little weird. But it's because the sen, en is very hard to say in conversation, even for Japanese people. So most people just say sen. Great Japanese, Patrick and Alberto. Absolutely. Arigatou gozaimasu, says Alberto Lin. Yes, you have decks for Anki Online. I pair that with the book, Remembering the Kanji. Nice. Thanks for the answer, Ian and Andy. Writing kanji down, is any useful to memorize them, or should I drop that and go full Anki? You can do both. I mean, I think writing is a good skill to have, especially in Japan where a lot of people still have to write by hand. Would the same apply for ichiman? Ichimaen. Pretty much, yeah. Ichimaen. Pretty much. About kanjis, the authors of Genki also wrote Kanji Look and Learn. It has good mnemonics and illustrations that look very good to learn the first 512 kanjis. It also has a workbook like Genki. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. I've never seen it before. Yuki said, "Dou itashimashite." I have no idea, but that sounds awesome. I'll have to take a look at that. Maybe I'll do a review of it. All right. So our next section is here and there, which means, well, never mind what this means. On we go. Here and there in Japanese. So once again, you'll notice that these look very similar to this and that, both of them. They all start with ko, so, a, and do, which signifies close to someone else, in the distance, or a WH question, right? But for locations, we ended with ko. So koko means here. Soko means there, next to somebody else, or near somebody else, rather. Asoko means there, but near nobody that is in the conversation, in the distance. Doko means where. You're going to use doko all the time, so you shouldn't have a problem. You might in the beginning, of course, because it's hard to memorize new vocabulary in the beginning for everyone, I think. But you're going to use it so frequently, especially if you ever come to Japan, and sort of make an effort to ask people where things are or talk to people, that doko will be, you'll have no problems with it. Doko is where. Where's the toilet? Most important sentence. Toire wa doko desu ka? All right, so some super simple questions, or not questions, sentences in Japanese. Koko, here. Obviously, these would probably be in response to a question of some sort, like where is something. Soko, there. Asoko, over there. I guess a better translation for asoko would be over there. Doko, where? Someone said to me, "Dude, your book is over there." Doko? Where? All right. Some actual sentences. Koko wa doko desu ka? This is a little bit weird of a sentence. You might not ever have to say this, but if you wake up and don't know where you are one day, you could probably say, "Koko wa doko desu ka?" I have actually said that before on like road trips and stuff where we ended up in some weird places, and I was like, we've gone on a lot of road trips. I love road trips. And it's like, "Koko wa doko desu ka?" One time, Yuki and I, we went from Nagano and we hit the coast on the west coast of Japan, and we drove along the coast all the way to the northern tip of Japan. So from the middle to the northern tip along the coast, and then back down the eastern coast all the way until Sendai, where we took the highway back to Nagano. It took us about 6 or 7 day road trip, camping along the way. So we camped at like free campsites. It was awesome. But anyway, there was this place, and it was weird. It was empty. There was nobody there, but you walked up into it. It looked like a tourist trap, but with no tourists. And there were these caves in the wall, and you'd go in and just freezing cold air was gushing out of them. And there was a sign on the wall explaining them, and it said, "Nobody knows where all the cold air is coming from, though they've studied it for a while. Nobody actually knows where the cold air comes from or why it's here. But during the war, they used it for cold storage." And you get to walk up onto the mountain a little bit, and there's these like old storage, like old doors in the mountain that go way back. You just can't see. It's into the darkness with cold air gushing out. It was weird, kind of terrifying. So in that situation, I would definitely ask, "Koko wa doko desu ka?" Where is here? All right, our next sentence would be, "Soko janai, asoko desu." It's not there, it's over there. So janai is something we're going to be covering later in this lesson. It means is not. It's not. It's basically the negative of des. We're going to be covering that a little bit later in detail, so stick around for that. Soko janai. asoko desu. It's not there. It's over there. All right. Derailed says come to Japan. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so on to our conversational piece. We've got 6 sentences in this one, so it's a little bit long. First, I'll go slowly. すみません。はい、いらっしゃいませ。四つ葉とはどこですか？四つ葉と？あ、ごめん。四つ葉とですか？あ、あそこです。ここですか？そこです。Alright, so obviously we're in a shop, and the shopkeeper is telling me where a book is, and that's why the soko and the soko gets moved, people are moving around. So let me read it at full speed. すみません。はい、いらっしゃいませ。四つ葉とはどこですか？四つ葉とって、四つ葉とですか？あそこです。ここですか？そこです。Alright, so let's go over this one by one. すみません. Excuse me. The most useful word in Japanese. You can use it for everything. For getting the attention of a clerk. For getting the attention of a waiter. For saying excuse me when you bump into someone on the train. For saying sorry when you do something wrong. すみません. Excuse me. はい。いらっしゃいませ. Yes. Welcome. But you wouldn't say this when you're welcoming someone into your house. This is welcome to my store, basically. You'll hear it going into almost every shop in Japan, every convenience store, every restaurant. いらっしゃいませ. You probably will not need to use this word anytime soon, but it is a vocabulary word in Genki Lesson 2. But you should get used to what it means. Not necessarily using it. It's a pretty difficult word to say. But the fact is unless you plan on working in a restaurant or a convenience store in Japan, which maybe you are, you're not going to need it yet. But you will need to understand it because people are going to be shouting it to you every time you walk into a store, and you're going to wonder what's going on. The first time I came to Japan, I walked into a convenience store the first time, and they started shouting stuff at me. Irashaimase! And I had no idea what was going on. I thought I had to respond or something. I had a little bit of a panic attack. Not really, but I was a little nervous because I didn't know what was going on, and I thought I had to respond because I knew nothing about Japanese when I got here. All right, derailed again. 四つ葉とはどこですか? Is an interjection, I think. It means the same thing as the English. So Japanese people will use this all the time, just like we use So you should learn to say for when you're speaking Japanese because it makes you sound super natural. If you're saying 四つ葉とはどこですか? It doesn't sound natural at all. Instead, if you say 四つ葉とはどこですか? Now, obviously, you'll be thinking about it. So if you're thinking about saying in English, you probably won't say But you should think about saying in Japanese because it makes you sound more natural. 四つ葉とはどこですか? どこですか is where is it? And what we're looking for is 四つ葉と. Now, 四つ葉と, with an exclamation point, is a manga that's about a little kindergartner kid and her dad, her single dad, that live together here in Japan. And I think he's an author. I'm not really sure. But it's a relatively easy to read manga. And if you're around like N3 or a little bit below, I think it's very useful. Now, if you're only on lesson 2 right now, it's probably a little bit too early to start reading Yotsubato. But in a couple months, maybe, it might be something useful for me. I think it's a really, really good manga. I found it hysterical, especially because I've been a kindergarten teacher for 4.5 years. It was a great manga. Yotsubato desu ka? We're on to the B sentence. Yotsubato is just question mark, right? Is that what you're talking about? Yotsubato? Asoko desu? It's over there. So maybe the person who's asking these questions walks over to where the clerk is pointing to, and now they're next to that point, and they say, Koko desu ka? It's here. The clerk is still where they were standing, but now you're next to it. So they won't say asoko desu again. They will say, which means yep. Soko desu, because now it's near to you. So you use soko. Soko desu. All right, our next section is whose in Japanese, but let's stop and see if there's any questions. Oh, Vide, how you doing, man? Good to see you. And Diglets, good to see you too. Thanks for joining tonight. All right, what did we miss? Ooh, about the kanji. All right, authors. For sure, Ian. Gregory says, very interesting, Romeris. Omoshiroi, haha, I'll check it later. Yes. Lynn says, toire wa doko desu ka? Very important sentence, man. Oh, there it is. Dan's throwing the toilet. Soko desu, says Yuki, next to Dan. Thumbs up. Derailed. Lynn says, irashaimase. Heard it so much in Japan. Yes, you will. Sil Marie is laughing her ass off. Vide says, are you supposed to respond to irashaimase? No, you are not. You don't have to respond at all. I had a panic attack, like I said, because I thought you did. Because I knew nothing. I came to Japan. The only word I knew in Japanese was gomen nasai. That was it. Didn't know anything else. And of course I knew arigato, domo arigato from the song Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. That's it. That's all I knew coming here. So when I got shouted at, irashaimase, in Okayama, I didn't know what was going on. You can hear it multiple times per day sometimes. Yeah, if you're in like a shopping mall, you'll hear it multiple times per minute. Vide, not really, just kind of nod, maybe, yeah. What's the difference between eto and ano? Anything to distinguish eto versus ano as All right, so let's see if anyone's answered. Eto, says Yuki. Lots of people are asking about eto and ano. Okay, so let's talk about that really quickly. Eto is, so they can be used sort of interchangeably, but ano has a sort of an extra nuance to it. So first, eto is just the basic, and Japanese people will say it without thinking about it. That's their Like when you're learning public speaking, the first thing they tell you is to try to stop saying because it's not good for public speaking, right? And eto is Japanese people's the one that they're supposed to stop saying when they're speaking in public. So that's that. It means nothing really. Ano has a bit more of an interesting nuance. It sort of implies that you're hesitant to say what you're about to say. It still means and probably would be translated as but there's that nuance of I'm not completely comfortable saying what I'm about to say. With that said, a lot of people will just say ano, and what they say after it just sort of makes it a slightly more polite, like just ever so slightly, because there's a sense of hesitation with it. So that's the main difference. Translation-wise into English, we don't really have anything like that. It would just be or like when you want to ask your mom or something, if you can do something when you're a kid, like mom. Ano is like that one. Okay. If you still have any questions about that, let me know. But I think that pretty much covers it. I see, says Vide. In stores, sometimes every single person that works there will say it. So weird. Yes, Lynn. Every convenience store, man. Every 7-Eleven. Every time. Is eto the same as ano? Okay, I covered that. And very similar in use and interchangeable, says Come to Japan. Yeah, a lot of times they are interchangeable. But just keep in mind there can be that sort of nuance when it comes to ano. Yuki says, toire wa doko desu ka? There it is again. Koko desu. Asoko desu, says Lin. Arigatou gozaimasu. Come to Japan says, sumimasen. Could be very polite, actually. Yeah. If you pause, if you say ano before sumimasen, it definitely, you're trying to get someone's attention, but it makes it a little bit more like, hey, I feel bad for calling you, but I need your help. Sumimasen. Very good point, Dan. Thank you. Great explanation. Thanks. All right. Excellent. So, welcome here from the timestamp on the replay, everyone. We're about to cover whose in Japanese. Whose in Japanese is dare no. Now, you'll notice that I've divided this up into different colors, and I'll explain why right now. So, dare no plus a noun is whose noun, whose thing, right? The formulation looks very similar to the no particle, which we covered last week, though, and that's because it is. You'll notice we have noun A plus no plus noun B. Now, dare, the word dare, means who. Dare no means whose. So that means that this no particle is the possessive that we covered last week. Attached to dare no, it becomes whose thing. So dare is the first noun in that in that same exact formula that we covered in lesson 1. So that makes dare no a little bit more simple. Dare no noun. Okay. So now that we've got that, let's go over some examples. Dare no kaban. A regular sentence in this situation would be dare no kaban desu ka? But if you just use rising intonation at the end and in conversation, and it's not like someone that's way above you that you need to be super polite to, you could just say, dare no kaban? Whose bag is this? Basically. Our next sentence is, kore wa dare no hon desu ka? This is a more traditional sentence using kore. Whose book is this? Dare no hon desu ka? Whose book is this? Kore. All right. Oh, and there's the furigana for the book, kanji. And that's it. Pretty straightforward, I think. So we're just going to jump into the dialogue section. So let's get those furigana out here. And I'll start slowly. すみません。これはお客様の財布ですか？いいえ、私の財布じゃないです。これは誰の財布ですか？ Alright, full speed. すみません。これはお客様の財布ですか？いいえ、私の財布じゃないです。これは誰の財布ですか？ Alright, let's go over that line by line. すみません. Alright, that's exactly the sentence we literally just covered in the chat. What are the odds? I add to extend it a little bit. すみません. Maybe Yeah, is fine. Excuse me? So they're being polite. They're being sort of hesitant and asking a customer a question. Is the way you would just express like the huh? What? これはお客様の財布ですか? Is this your wallet? Now that's the translation I would put if I was translating a book or if I was translating for a TV show. That would be the simplified translation. It's the better translation than what I'm going to show you is the literal translation. Is this the honored customer's wallet? Now we would never, ever say in English, is this the honored customer's wallet? To the person. They would think we were absolutely insane. But in Japanese, that's how you talk to people, especially if they are customers of yours. You call them okyakusama, which a literal translation would be the honored customer. All right, honored customer. That's what that O is, right? Kyakusama is guest or customer. And that's what people will refer to customers in stores as, okyakusama. But in English, we would just translate that as yours. Okyakusama no saifu is that your wallet, right? Okay, but just keep in mind that that's how people are going to talk to you when you're in a store. So if you expect someone in a store to say, これはあなたの財布ですか? I mean, it might happen if they're not working there. But generally, if they're working at the store, they're going to call you okyakusama. So you should get used to hearing that word if you're going to Japan anytime soon. Well, probably not anytime soon because nobody's allowed in the country at the moment. But that's besides the point. If you're watching this on the replay, maybe you will be able to come here soon. I hope so. これはお客様の財布ですか? You notice I've used the regular no possessive particle in this dialogue a couple times so you can get used to seeing that 誰の is the same thing. On to the next sentence. いいえ、私の財布じゃないです. No, it's not my wallet. Once again, じゃない is the negative of です. And we're going to be covering that a little bit later in the lesson. So stick around for that, but just so you know, it's the negative of です. That's the main thing. 私 my の財布じゃないです. 財布 is wallet, by the way. いえ is no. これは誰の財布ですか? じゃあ whose wallet is this then? The clerk in the shop is in trouble. They can't figure out whose wallet it is. Oh, I see someone throwing on my Patreon link. Dan, thank you. Appreciate it. Your sound went out of sync with your mouth. Why is that? I'm not sure. Is that happening to anyone else? I think it's okay. It might just be lagging a little bit. Hopefully not. All right. So that is the end of that section. The next section is to in Japanese, as in you as well. So I'm going to be taking a break now to answer questions. So if you're watching on the replay and you don't want to stick around for the questions, just hit one of the timestamps down in the description or in the comments, and you can jump on to the next section, which is to in Japanese. So let's see what's going on in the chat. どうしたの? あ、この財布は誰ですかになってた。この財布は誰の財布ですか。あ、これは誰の財布ですか。どこで。あ、チャット。Ah, okay, Yuki's just talking about the chat. Seabolt speaks. How you doing, man? Good to see you. No problem. I wish our time frame matched up a bit better, but I love these streams. I wish it did too. I'm sorry, man. But thank you for being here. Thank you for your great explanation about ano, says Alberto. Thank you. I mean, you're welcome. Come to Japan, says dare no toire. I don't know, man. Ando no toire. Ah, probably. Ohayo, says Seabolt speaks. Good morning, Seabolt. Thanks for coming. No problem. Ando no toire. It's Ando's toilet. Sweet. Romora says, can you say kono saifu wa dare no desu ka? You could. Sure. Wow, honored customer. Good to know, says Silmery. Yeah. Ramoris, perfect. Yes, you can, says Dan. Absolutely. Patreon. Oh, thank you for the advertisement, Dan. Patreon page. Your stem went out of sync? I hope it didn't. But go to the Patreon and become an honored customer. Yes, my patrons I would refer to if I was speaking to them in Japanese as okyakusama, maybe. I'd probably use your names. That's way less odd. Can you remove the no in that sentence? In which sentence? The one above? It's Melvin. You're going to have to show me which sentence. Probably not. You usually can't drop no's. Those are a little bit harder to drop depending on the sentence. I heard somewhere that anata was kind of rude to say and that there were better alternatives. Is this true? It can be. You shouldn't overuse the word anata. If you know somebody's name, you should use that instead of anata. It sounds kind of rude if you know a person's name and refer to them as anata. You can also just not use anything. You can not use the word you and just say what you wanted to say anyway. It's perfectly normal in Japanese to drop me or I or you, stuff like that. It's technically a polite word for you, right? Technically speaking, but it's not that commonly used. So just keep that in mind. Try not to overuse it. It's Melvin says, kono saifu wa dare desu ka? No, you can't go with, okay, that's what you're asking about. Kono saifu wa dare desu ka? You're asking, who is this saif? Not whose is this saif. That means the saif is the wallet is a person and you're asking who it is. If someone used a polymorph spell on them and turned them into a wallet, then that would be a legitimate sentence. You could be asking who it is. I don't know if you play World of Warcraft, but maybe that would make sense. Won't make sense otherwise. But anyway, yeah, no, you have to have the no in that situation. Kono saifu wa dare no desu ka? Which is, what's happening in that sentence is you're dropping the second word wallet the second time because you already know what the person's talking about. So you don't need to say, kono saifu wa dare no saifu desu ka? It's repetitive. So you can drop the second saifu and it's implied. Kono saifu wa dare no desu ka? But you still need that no to imply that something is being dropped, to show that something is being dropped. Otherwise, it sounds like you're asking who it is. Nah, good here, says Seabold speaks. Hehe, says Silmery. No, okay here. Wow, you can talk while you're drinking. Oops. Yuki check Melvin. No, you can't remove no. Montana Margot, if you refresh the page, it could fix it, maybe. In that who sentence. Sorry I'm late, says Aubergine. No worries, man. Thank you for coming. Okay, thanks, says it's Melvin. No problem. All right, so it looks like we're caught up with the questions, so let's go ahead and jump into the section 2 in Japanese. We're already an hour in, ladies and gentlemen. Nice. Having a good time. Hope you guys are too. Thank you for being here. Seabolt Speaks says, I'm not sure if Spanish verb conjugations or fully dropping the subject when understood is harder to get used to. I'm not sure if Spanish verb conjugations or fully dropping the... That's a good question. In my opinion, Spanish verb conjugations are harder. When you memorize Spanish conjugations, they're not that bad, but I feel like there's more exceptions in Spanish than in Japanese. So if you can get the Japanese conjugations down, being able to just drop so many things it's wonderful because you can hold If you forget words or people's names, you just don't have to use them. And it's perfectly fine, which I really like. But with that said, it's hard to know sometimes what it's okay to drop. And my recommendation with that is just try things. Like when you're talking to people, try dropping them and see if they understand. And if they don't understand what you're saying, add it back in. And, you can sort of get a sense for what you're able to drop. But there's a lot of things you can drop. Can we say, これは誰の財布ですか? You absolutely can. これは誰の財布ですか? You absolutely can say that. Perfect sentence. Yup, says Come to Japan. I guess it just takes some time to get used to. Yes, as do many things in language learning, right? Takes a while. But it's awesome when you get used to it. Yuki said, 私の財布です. It's her saif. All right, on we go to the next section. To in Japanese. This one's really straightforward. So, here are two formulas. The first one is from last week's sentence structure formula. X wa y desu, where X is the topic, Y is something about the topic, and desu is, of course, it is. So, to in Japanese is, all you have to do is replace wa, the wa particle, with the mo particle, which implies me as well, or Z mo y desu. So let's talk about that a little. Z is, of course, like I said, the topic. Mo is a particle that means to. Y is something about Z. Des is it is. So you're going to use mo basically. You don't just make sentences that stand alone by themselves with the mo particle. Obviously, you need something that comes before it. You need to be talking about something else, and then you use mo, right? Same thing in English, but just thought I should point that out. So our first sentence might be, 彼はアメリカ人です. He is an American. 僕もアメリカ人です. I am also American. So, mo can also be translated as also. So, you could translate this as, I am also an American, or I am an American too. 彼はアメリカ人です. 僕もアメリカ人です. アメリカ人です. It's a little bit hard to say. All right, so let's go over some sentences. We're back with the bananas from last week. We've got, the first one is, バナナは甘いです. Bananas are sweet, right? According to Japan. リンゴも甘いです. Apples are also sweet. So we need that first sentence about bananas for the second sentence to make sense. We're saying that apples are also sweet. But we would need to do that in English. So I don't think I need to point that out too much. All right. These are just the sentences from last week, but we're adding something to them. So you'll remember 動物の森 is Animal Crossing. In Japanese, Animal Crossing. And let me just tell you about this really quick. Animal Crossing in Japanese is basically Animal Forest. And Animal Crossing New Horizons in Japanese, what is it? Atsumare? Atsumare 動物の森 is the name of Animal Crossing New Horizons in Japanese. 集まれ動物の森. So 集まれ means get together, gather. Get together, Animal Forest is the name of the game. I think the English name is so much better. Get together, Animal Forest. A lot of people in Japanese, when they're talking about this version of 動物の森, they say, what do they say? 集まり? Atsumori. So they shorten it to Atsumori. Atsumare 動物の森. Atsumori. Little fun tidbit for you today. So 動物の森は楽しいです. You'll remember from last week that 楽しい means fun. Our mo sentence is バイオハザードも楽しいです. バイオハザードも楽しいです. Resident Evil is fun too. So Resident Evil in Japanese, it's a Japanese game by the way, is Biohazard. Biohazard. Just so you know. All right. Biohazard mo tanoshii desu. Resident Evil is fun too, or is also fun. I've actually never played Resident Evil. That's probably a crime against humanity, but not really. But I never have. All right, on to our conversation piece. So today's conversation for two is これは誰のカバンですか? C さんのです. これも そのカバンはわかりません。A little bit faster. これは誰のカバンですか？ C さんのです。or C さんのカバンです。これもそのカバンはわかりません。Alright, let's go over that line by line. So, これは誰のカバンですか？ You'll notice we use 誰の, which is whose. Whose bag is this? Pretty straightforward, right? C さんのです。So, just like we were talking about a little bit earlier in the question section, we are dropping the word カバン here. The full sentence would be C さんのカバンです。There's a random person named C. C さんのカバンです. But because we're already talking about the bag, A has already said bag, it's implied. We don't need to repeat the word カバン because everyone knows that's what we're talking about right now. So we can say C さんのです. It's Mr. C's, basically. We could drop it in English too, right? Same thing. All right. Next sentence. これも this too. これも or このカバンも might be another way you could say it using このカバンも Of course, the full sentence is これも C さんのカバンですか or このカバンも C さんのですか would be another way to put it, right? We're just cutting everything out at the end. B person says そのカバンはわかりません. I don't know that bag. All right, so earlier we said that 知りません or 知らない was I don't know. わかりません can also be translated as I don't know, but it's more commonly translated as I don't understand. Okay? But it can also be used in this kind of situation where I do not have the knowledge of whose that bag is. I don't understand whose that bag is. I don't know. I don't know that bag. そのカバンはわかりません. So that's another important word. It means I don't understand. When someone is trying to speak to you in Japanese and you're not picking up what they're saying, what you can say is わかりません. If you want a shorter version, someone can maybe write this in the chat. わからない. わからない. It's not impolite, but it's the less polite version of I don't understand, and you'll use it all the time. Sorry, I don't know what you're saying. わかりません. All right, so that brings us to the question section for this section. The next section is negative statements in Japanese, so I'm going to take a quick break to talk to everyone and see what the questions are and see what's going on in chat. If you want to skip to the next section, there are timestamps down in the description. Not if you're live, of course. All right, let's see what's going on. 私の財布です. バナナとリンゴは甘いです. Yes, you could absolutely say that, Ian. Perfect. That works. Yes, it does. You can also use to, which I think comes a little bit later in Genki, and it means and. バナナとリンゴは甘いです. Absolutely. Ethan, hello, how you doing? Good to see you. Come to Japan says yes. And Yuki is giving out bananas and apples because it was correct. Perfect. Hi, Ethan says come to Japan. Konbanwa. Seabolt Speak says, I've been watching a Japanese guy play Animal Crossing. Picked up a few words from it as well. I wonder if I'm watching the same guy. He's got a TikTok as well that is clips from his YouTube, and it's hysterical. He's got like a whole group of friends that get together, and they're playing Atsumori. And it's really funny. I enjoy his TikTok clips. I've never watched his YouTube, though, but I imagine it's interesting. Yeah. It's Melvin says, ゴキブリ嫌いです。雲も嫌いです. Perfect. That is a perfect sentence. It means I hate cockroaches. I can't speak anymore. I also hate spiders. It's Melvin. I'm not a big fan of spiders either. Ian says, kind of off topic, but when translating an English name to Japanese, can you just pick the kana that sound the closest to your name, or are there actual rules for it? There are no rules. No rules. And many people will write your name differently, and it will cause endless problems at City Hall trying to get proper documents done. I'm almost positive that here in Nagano, that I have multiple accounts. Oh, did my stream stop? Is it still working? I think it's still working. I have multiple accounts within City Hall because I think the stream might have dropped. Hold on. No, we're still good. Anyway, I have multiple accounts, I think, in City Hall because on one time I went there, I used my full name, my middle name, and my last name. And one time I went there, I didn't use my middle name. So they think I'm two different people. And sometimes when I write my middle name, which is James, I put a small e. And so it's James. And when I first came here, my first company, apparently they wrote it with a big A. So, what's up? Did it stop?
Yeah.
Stream is ripped for me. Uh-oh. Hold on one second. Oh, no. Getting a message from... Okay, it seems to be working right now. I'm just going to stop talking for a minute, and I'll get back. Good thing we're in the questions section. Yeah, it came back for a little, and then it died again. Bit of lag. No, you're fine on mic. Just that person is lagging. Think the stream is dead. Bit of a lag. All right. So let's see how we're doing. Mr. Are we okay? Mine is completely disconnected. Gonna give it a minute. I think it might just be my internet. I'm back, says Ian. Okay. I think we're okay. Not sure what's going on there. Maybe YouTube. If we're back, I just wanted to quickly say thank you to Alberto Lin, who just joined the first year on my Patreon. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Man, you guys know how to make my night. Thank you so much. And thank you for Wendell, and Ian Johnson as well. Thank you so much, man. Wendell Anderson, Ian Johnson, Alberto Lin. Thank you for becoming patrons. It's working okay? Okay, sweet. So going back to my story. Thank you guys. Going back to my story, which I was so rudely interrupted by the internet. Interrupted from the internet. Can't speak. At City Hall, I applied for certain things using my middle name, and I applied for certain things without writing down my middle name. So multiple accounts, I don't know how many, exist for me within City Hall. So nothing is connected. Nobody knows who I am. My original company signed me up for my bank account with a large E in my middle name, which is James. James. I thought it was a small e, so I wrote it in small a in other places, which has caused me not to be able to access my bank account in certain situations because they're very specific about that stuff. And sometimes I've wrote James with a Z instead of a S, but some people write it with a S, which messes up computer systems all over Japan. So there are no rules. People will write it different all the time, and you should just pick what you want and then stick to it, because otherwise you're going to have lots of problems. All right. So let's see what I missed while the whole stream was dying. The stream is ripped for me. I believe to is often used to mean with. Yes, that's a different usage of to, but to can also mean and if it's used between nouns. I'm confused because I thought mo was only used instead of wa, but it can be used instead of to. And the stream died again. Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on tonight. Hopefully the replay is better than what's happening. But anyway. No. Mo cannot be used in place of to. To is to. Mo is only replacing wa. Stream is ripped for me. Same. So to translate, for example, it's Mr. A's. We can say, A-san no desu. Yes. The video has been lagging, so I keep having to leave the stream and clicking it again. It's my fourth time doing that. I apologize. Yeah, it seems to be something on my end. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure. Can you shut down the switch, maybe? And also, can you shut down the stream on your phone? Just to sort of free up the internet. I'm not sure what's happening. Seems fine for now. Mine's on and off. Yeah, I keep switching between my phone and computer because it just stops sometimes. I'm really sorry about that. Is it okay to use your first name, like Gregory, this, or is it always better to use family names? When you're introducing yourself, especially as a foreigner in Japan, it's perfectly fine to use your first name. In fact, I used to introduce myself with my full name, Andoryu Saruman. But I don't do that anymore because it's really hard for people to remember. I literally exist as Andy. In fact, in my old school, everyone, teachers, on signs in the school, like in official documents, I was just referred to as Andy. Like I had just one name, basically like Prince. It's pretty cool. And there goes the stream again. Shut down. This is so irritating. You stop, then silence, then lag. I keep going out and coming back. Yeah, it's very irritating for me too. I'm sorry. I could stop the stream really quick. I don't know if I have to restart it. I'm going to restart really quick. Not going to end. I'm just going to stop it on my end and see if that fixes it. So I'm going to go silent for a few moments. On the replay, guys, this may continue on a different video. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I've never done it before, but we're going to stop the stream and then restart. Here we go. All right. Let's see if this works. All right, guys. That's the new patrons. Oh my God, thank you so much. Sorry that this stream is tanking so hard. But anyway, I think we're okay on the questions, and I think the stream is okay. So I'm just going to keep going, and we'll see what happens. Looking good, says Simpy. All right, thank you. So our next section is negative statements in Japanese. So the opposite of this is ではありません. And that's long, isn't it? ではありません. It's really long, so we're not going to worry about it tonight. We can shorten ではありません to じゃない this. And that this is optional. So this is how we do it. では can be shortened to じゃ. ありません means it's basically the negative of exist. Can be shortened to ない. Put those together, you get じゃない. And you can add des for some added politeness. じゃないです. So, a negative statement in Japanese is just like a positive statement. It's X は Y じゃないです. This is optional. So, X は Y じゃない. Remember, our regular statement in Japanese is X は Y です. Negative is X は Y じゃないです. X is not Y. So let me just go back really quick and just mention once again that X is the topic, was the topic particle, Y is something about X, and janai means it's not that thing. And that's it. So let's go over those old sentences from last week. Once again, bananas, obsessed with bananas here. I don't even have any in my house right now. We don't have any bananas, no. But anyway, banana wa aka janai. Bananas are not red. Banana wa aka janai. Bananas are not red. Kyou wa getsuyobi janai desu, or janai. Remember, you could add this to the end of these to make them a little more polite, but it is not required. It's optional. It's a little colloquial, like a little informal, but it's fine to just say janai. So today is not Monday. It's Sunday. 今日は月曜日じゃない. 今日は日曜日です. Today is Sunday. All right, let's go over some slightly more complicated and useful sentences. パーティーは明日ですか? Is the party tomorrow? 明日じゃないです. 土曜日ですよ. It's not tomorrow. It's actually Saturday. So you'll notice we have yo again, which is highlighted in yellow with a blue, light blue font. And that can also be translated to actually, but we're going to be covering that in, I think, the next section. So stick around for that. It's not tomorrow. It's actually Saturday. 明日じゃないです. 土曜日ですよ. Not tomorrow. Ashita, by the way, means tomorrow. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the conversation. Hopefully everyone's following along with that. This is going to be a fun one. 安藤さんのパーティーはいつですか? 安藤さんのパーティーじゃない。え? そうですか? うん。僕のパーティーですよ。Let's go a little bit faster. 安藤さんのパーティーはいつですか? 安藤さんのパーティーじゃない。え? そうですか? うん。僕のパーティーですよ。Let's see what that one means. Jumping in to the translation. 安藤さんのパーティーはいつですか? When is Mr. Ando's party? I guess Ando-san in English would be Mr. Ando. I want to say, when is Ando-san's party, even in English. It sounds better, but the real translation would be Mr. Ando's, but he is not a Mr. Itsu, in Japanese, means when. Itsu desu ka? When is. And party, of course, means party. Now, there's another version of party where the E at the end there is extended. Both are fine. Party or just party. Either one is fine. Ando-san no party wa itsu desu ka? When is Mr. Ando's party? Ando-san no party janai. It's not Mr. Ando's party. Ando-san no party janai. And remember, this no is the possessive no. It's not Mr. Ando's. So desu ka? So, is like, what? Huh? Oh? Just a sound, right? It's just a sound. We have those kind of sounds in English. And in this situation, that's kind of what is in Japanese too. Really? So desu ka? So desu ka could be translated as really? Or is that so? All right. And B says, boku no party desu yo. Boku is, of course, the masculine I. So, is like, yeah. It's just sort of a sound as well. You don't necessarily need to open your mouth and say, You can, if you're reading it out loud. But basically, it's more like a sound that comes with your mouth closed. Yeah. Boku no party desu yo. It's my party. Really? It's like, believe me, it's actually my party. It's not the other person's. I know. That's what that yo is implying. We'll cover that in a minute. And that's it. That's the end of that section. And our next and final section in this lesson is the sentence enders yo and ne. I'm going to take a look at chat and see if there's any questions. So if you're watching this on the replay, check the timestamps down below. All right, let's see what happened. Dogen is really good at pitch accent. If that's your thing. Pitch accent is off for most words, says Mark Panther. Yeah, man. Pitch accent is very difficult. But you don't need perfect pitch accent for people to understand you or to be able to communicate in Japanese. If you want to sound extremely native, that's perfectly fine to spend literally hundreds and hundreds of hours on pitch accent. And I should, and I probably will. In fact, I plan on joining Dogen's Patreon at some point to work on that, because that is one of my weakest points, pitch accent. But I've been speaking Japanese every day for the past 6 years, every day, pretty much all day, every day, in Japan, with my girlfriend, with my friends, with my coworkers, with my students. Like, I speak more Japanese than English by a long shot. And rarely has pitch accent ever caused me any issues when it came to being understood. So I will mention that. If you want to study pitch accent, you shouldn't be listening to me. Now, I will mention that on the Patreon, Yuki does most of the pronunciation practice stuff because of that. Because I want you to be copying her pitch accent, not necessarily mine. So that's one reason that we both do the content on the Patreon. But it would be really hard for us to both do these streams, although I might have her join sometime. Shut down everything. Okay, I didn't miss too much. Let's see. Looking good, says Simpy. Seems good now. Gregory, the video lagged exactly when you were saying how you're known as in Japan. I hope I covered that again. So to translate, for example, is Mr. A's, we can say, A-san no desu. Okay, I've already read all this. Sweet. Yuki's giving out strawberries. Lynn says, so in normal conversation, is it better not to use de wa arimasen, too formal? If it's in super polite conversation, like you're talking to someone who is way above you and you want to be very polite, you can use de wa arimasen. Or if you're really emphasizing it, aka de wa arimasen, like it's not red. Like if you really want to emphasize it, you can use that. But I think janai is much more common. Ian says, banana wa toire janai desu. Banana is not a toilet. That is correct. Dan laughed. Banana is not a toilet. Pitch accent is all for most words. Yep, covered that. All right. I never realized how much more common is for yes versus hai until I started immersing a bit. Yeah, is a way more common way to say yes in Japanese. Like, people don't usually say hai in conversation, normal everyday conversation, when they're saying yes. Ian says, pitch accent is something I'll never be able to do. LMAO. I hope I can someday. If I put the time into it, I think I can. I just don't have the time to put into it, but I may someday, especially since I'm teaching Japanese right now. It probably would be a wise thing for me to put some time into. Romora says, is sonano the same as so desu ka? Yes, it can be used the same way, sonano. But let me just confirm this with Yuki. I think sonano is more of a feminine way of saying so desu ka. Is that correct, Yuki? Sonano. A little bit more feminine, girls. I think sonano. I use it all the time, but I speak more feminine Japanese because I worked in a kindergarten with, I was one of only one other, there was two other males in my entire kindergarten. There was the principal and there was the PE teacher, and then there was 40 women who were the other teachers in the school. So most of my immersion, since we're talking about that, was with women. So my Japanese is actually somewhat feminine and also childish in some situations, like in everyday conversation. Not what I'm teaching you guys, but when I'm just speaking normally, I'll often say things that sound sort of like a kid would be speaking sometimes. Some of my expressions, like sonano, it's kind of feminine, but it does mean the same thing. LOL, says Seabold Speaks. Classic language YouTube comments. What is pitch accent, says Sayakora Saiko. It's, so basically in Japanese, a lot of people like to claim that Japanese is flat. Like you say words flat. Boku wa Andi desu. But Japanese is not flat. There's actually ups and downs. It's basically intonation, right? Boku wa, so you heard I said boku. I went up there. That going up is part of pitch accent. And my pitch accent is not perfect. And what pitch accent helps with is when there's a lot of homonyms in Japanese, which are basically, is it homonyms, I think, is the word I'm looking for? Words that are written the same, or look the same, sound the same when or look the same when they're written down, but they're different words. They have different meanings. So the way you can differentiate them, for learners, the way you differentiate it is from context. But Japanese people can tell the difference from the intonation of the way it's spoken, the pitch accent, as it were. And you can definitely, like, Japanese people will know that you're not a native if your pitch accent is off. But that doesn't mean they won't understand you. They're still going to understand you. It's not like Chinese where if you get the tones wrong, it's like a totally impolite, terrible word. It's not. There's nothing like that in Japanese. But if you want to sound like 100% native, you got to work on pitch accent. And Dan mentioned Dogen. Dogen's the guy to go to for pitch accent. With that said, Dogen himself says that in regular everyday conversation, his pitch accent isn't as good as in his videos because he needs to do each line in all his videos like 20 times to get the pitch accent perfect. Because it's hard. It's really hard, and it takes a lot of practice. So don't aim for perfect pitch accent in the beginning. Know that it exists and try to get it right. Like when you're shadowing native Japanese people or something, try and get the same tone intonation right as them. But you don't need to spend too much time on it. All right. Homonym is the right term. Thank you, Grammy. All right. Seabold says, ame is a great example. Yes, ame. Candy and rain. Pending the pitch. Yuki, can you say the candy version of ame? Ame. That's candy. And rain? Ame. So you'll notice the rain one, ame, starts up, ame, and goes down, ame. And candy, ame, it starts low and goes up, ame. So that's pitch accent, okay? We start low, ame, and we're talking about candy. We start up high and go low, ame. We're talking about rain. But you don't need to worry about that stuff too much. Ian says, pitch accent is something that is obtained from birth when you hear people speaking, but as a second language, pitch accent is incredibly hard, yes. And it's something that beginners that are learning Genki do not need to worry about yet. Just be aware that it exists. All right, so hour and a half in, and we're on to our last section, the sentence enders yo and ne. So these ones give people a lot of trouble. I want to make clear that we're only going to be covering, and Genki Lesson 2 only covers a small portion of the usages of these. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, but this is basically it. Yo can be translated as I'm telling you, or I tell you. It's sort of a confident statement. It makes your statement confident, as in, I am confident that what I'm telling you is the truth. And it can also often mark new information to the listener. Now, in the new edition of Genki, it doesn't point this point out. It doesn't point out that new information to listener is a usage of yo. In the second edition, it does point this out. And it is used this way. It can be used to mark something that the other person didn't know that you're giving them as new information. We'll see in the example sentences. Now, ne. Ne can be translated as the English right or as the Canadian eh. How you doing? Tomorrow's gonna rain, eh? If I don't know if that's Canadian, whatever, but it's used that way, right? It's gonna rain tomorrow, right? Ne, that's how that's used. So, example, it's for seeking agreement or for confirmation. All right. So the way you use these is you put them at the end of a sentence, any sentence. Sentence plus yo, sentence plus ne. That's the formula. Super straightforward. So let's go back to our bananas. Everybody loves bananas. Bananas for everyone. Banana wa amai desu yo. Bananas are sweet, you know? So there's lots of different English that you could use to translate yo. But it's like they're this way, man. Seriously. Maybe someone doesn't believe you, or maybe someone doesn't know what bananas are like. Someone asks, maybe they've never eaten bananas. Is that possible? They're like, what do bananas taste like? And you could say, they're sweet, man, you know? Banana wa amai desu yo. New information. Ringo mo amai desu yo. I'm telling you, apples are also sweet. Who is this person that's never had apples or bananas before? I don't know, but apparently it's new information for them. All right. We're going to use the same sentences with ne and see what the difference is. Banana wa amai desu ne. Bananas are sweet, right? Ringo mo amai desu ne. Apples are also sweet, right? Now, one thing I want to mention is that if you use a sort of different intonation with this ne, it can mean something a little bit different. Banana wa amai desu ne. No, that would be wrong. But kono banana wa amai desu ne. So desu. Kono banana wa amai desu ne. So ne can also sort of be a confirmation. Like if someone says, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into that too much. Know that ne can be used sort of as a confirmation. There's a good example in the dialogue. I'm not going to cover it too much right now because it's sort of hard to explain without a better example. And it's not covered in Genki Lesson 2, but I will go over it a little bit right here. All right, so here is our dialogue. This should help you understand a little bit more. By the way, it's a continuation of the last dialogue. B さんのパーティーですね。僕のパーティーですよ。そうですか。楽しいですよ。嘘。That's Ando-san. All right, let's go at full speed. B さんのパーティーですね。僕のパーティーですよ。そうですか。楽しいですよ。嘘。All right, let's see what that all means. B さんのパーティーですね。It's your party, huh? So this you'll see fu elongated is not I guess it could be like the in English as well, but it's more like the sort of aggressive It's your party, huh? Does that exist in English, or have I just carried that over from Japanese? I'm not actually sure. Someone let me know in the comments or in the chat. Anyway, B-san no party desu ne. This is the confirmation ne. This is the one that's saying, so it's yours, huh? Huh is a good translation of it. It's your party, huh? Boku no party desu yo. Oops. Yes. Or yeah, it's my party. Seriously. Or it's new information. Or just seriously, really, believe me, it's mine. That's what the yo is expressing. That sort of believe me. There's that again. So desu ka. Just so you know, so desu ka, it's an expression that shows up in lesson 1. It can also mean, and that's the way it's taught in lesson 1, is I see. But it can also be used as, is that so? So it'll depend on how if you've got a question, or if you don't have a question intonation at the end. So desu ka? Is that so? So desu ka? I see. Tanoshii desu yo. It will be fun. Really, I'm telling you, seriously. It's new information for the listener. They don't seem to believe it. So I'm telling them. Seriously. It's going to be fun, man. And then Ando-san comes in, like the jerk that he is, and he says, Uso. Lies. Uso. Uso is just the noun for, basically, for lie. But used in this way, it implies that the speaker is lying. Uso. That's a lie. それは嘘です would be the full sentence, but you can just say uso. Lies. So before we go into question time, actually we are in question time, let's go ahead and see what questions we have in chat. All right. There's a bunch going on in here. Pitch accent is something that is obtained from... Okay. Sibo says, LOL, that's my biggest issue with the internet. Genki Lesson 2, some random on the net. Pitch accent. I'm going to go check out the channel to see how amazing their pitch accent is. Woo! Fire. I don't mind, man. People can call me on my pitch accent. It's true. It's a weak point of mine. I don't mind being called out on it. I will tell you, please be aware, everyone, my pitch accent is not perfect. I don't think that makes me that disqualifies me from teaching Japanese, because I think I'm able to teach it. If you understand it better than you did before, I think I can teach it, but my pitch accent doesn't need to be perfect. I don't think, but I admit it's not. All right, on we go. Amai banana desu yo. It's a sweet banana, seriously. LOL, says Diglets. Kawaii desu ne, says Lin. That's cute, eh? Amai desu yo ne. It's sweet, yeah? Right? Channel doesn't have any content, says Seabolt Speaks. Thanks for sticking up for me, man. Appreciate it. Watashi no koto desu ne. Yes, it is you, Yuki. She's talking about you. Seriously. Kawaii desu yo. The F out of here, man. Seabolt Speaks. Tonkatsu wa amai janai desu yo. Okay. Here we go. Oh, you already corrected it? Okay. Yeah. Janai is translated like, or it's conjugated like an adjective, because an e adjective, which would make it amai can be conjugated to a negative. So it can be amakunai. We'll cover that, I think, in lesson 6. Is that right? Says Ian. Dan corrected you, it seems like. I'll cover anything he didn't cover. Gregory says, it's funny because as a Brazilian Portuguese speaker, we also use ne in our language. Ne, which sounds very close to ne. Really? Does it mean the same thing, Gregory? Ian, amakunai. But other than that, okay. Kono toire wa kirei desu ne. It's a clean toilet. Now you're really good. Thanks, Dan. My vocab needs work. No, it's not your vocab. And we'll go over why. Don't tell me that, LOL. I'm only on Genki Lesson 4. Diglett says, sorry if this was already covered, but boku versus watashi. Are they completely interchangeable? Pretty much. Boku is more masculine. Watashi is neither male nor female. It's anyone can use it. But boku is mostly men in the situation of adults. Sometimes little girls will use boku, probably up until like chugaku, like middle school age. Some girls will use it. Maybe some tomboy-ish types. And also just like what I've seen is girls with strong brothers who use boku. The girls, like the little girls in my class, the kindergartners, like 4 or 5-year-olds who look up to those brothers, they'll often copy them and use boku. And nobody corrects them. So I think it's okay. But adult women using boku is very rare. Gotta stay humble, says Ian. Boku is the... Okay, yeah, he got that. Boku is only used for guys. Not necessarily, but yeah, mostly. Diglets, yes and no. It depends on the situation. There is also ore. Yeah, ore is very masculine. Pretty much only men will ever use that. It means I, but it's pretty rough. I use ore most of the time in informal conversation. But like in a work setting, I use it sometimes if it's someone on the same level as me. But in like a meeting or something, I wouldn't say ore because it's pretty rough. Boku-chan wa kawaii desu ne. Yes, Lynn remembers the story from last week. Boku-chan. Some little girls in my class referred to themselves as Boku-chan. Boku-chan wa kawaii desu ne. I'm so cute. Boku-chan. That's good if you're a little girl. You can teach your daughters that. Hi, I'm just stopping by to say hello. I would like to attend your live stream, but I've got a bit of work. But I will definitely be there on your next live stream. Super Cactus, thank you for stopping by. It's good to see you. Konbanwa, Super Cactus, thank you for stopping by, says Yuki. Boku-chan. Hey, Cactus. Yes, ne in Brazilian Portuguese is like a tag question. Something like, is it not? Oh, so it's basically the same. That's awesome. Interesting. Thanks for all your help with that. All right, so we got to the end of the questions. I hope that clarified all that for you guys. So... question time tonight is これは何ですか? That's the pattern. これは何ですか? And you would answer, それは本です. Or that is Genki no hon desu. So what I want you guys to do in chat is I want you to ask a question. You can say, これは何ですか? And then send an emoji. Now, what I bet you might not have known is that emoji comes from Japanese, these kanji. Emoji. And this is the kanji for picture. Mo is the kanji for like a sentence or basically sentence. And this is a character. Emoji is emoji in Japanese. それは something desu. I'm going to tell you what emoji it is. So, you can ask in chat, これは何ですか? And send an emoji. And I will try and answer. I'm not sure I can, but I will try. Is it okay to use 男の子 to say he? The book teaches that way, but I looked on the internet and found some weird answers. Is there another way to say that, or is this one okay? For he, you would use the word 彼. Kare. Let's see if I can write that in chat. Kare. Oops, can I switch to Japanese over here? There we go. Kare. Kare. This computer over here is slow. And here's the kanji for it. And that would be he. If you were using he in a sentence. Kare wa 韓国人です. He is a Korean. Then you would use kare. 男の子 means a boy, usually a young boy, a kid, a child, maybe kindergartner, high school, up to high schooler probably, 男の子. If you're an adult and you're talking about a high schooler, you would say 男の子. So it can mean boy, basically. 男の子. Ne? 男子, 男性, those are other ways to say boy. 男子, 男性. 男性 is an older boy, right? 男性. 男子 is like a younger boy, maybe high schooler. 男子. 男性. Maybe someone can write that in chat for me. Can mean guy, boy. Lynn says, これは何ですか? It's それはコーヒーです. Perfect. Yuki-chanはそれはコーヒーですね. Yes, it is. With what kind of keyboard can I write Japanese? You can write Japanese with any keyboard. You just need to download the IME. I should probably do a video on that. There's so many videos I need to do. But basically, if you install an IME, just look for Japanese IME on the Microsoft Store, I think. You can install it and you can change to Japanese at will. これは何ですか? それはコアラです. これは何ですか? Says Patrick. それはキノコです. これは何ですか? Wow, what would that be in Japanese? Those didn't freaking exist when I got here. それはディスク? イエン・ジョンソンのこれは何ですか? それディスク? Floppy disk. It's a floppy disk. 日本語では何だろう? ちょっと上. Floppy disk. Let's see. What would floppy disk be in Japanese? That's a floppy. Floppy disk. それはフロッピーディスクです。Or just それはフロッピーです。それですよ、それ。Oh, you have a different picture? B. That's how you would write floppy in Japanese. フロッピーです。Alright. これは何ですか? Says Diglets. それはギターです。It's a guitar. You can use your usual keyboard and add the Japanese extension. Yes, Lynn is correct. I see that. Thanks. これは何ですか? Says Dan. それは僕の Patreon です。The link to my Patreon. Thank you. これは何ですか? それはお団子です。それは団子です。It's 団子. I don't know what that is in English. 団子。これは何ですか? それは It's Alberto. それは雪です。It's snow, but it's a snowflake, yeah? Snowflake in Japanese is 雪の結晶? 雪の結晶? It comes out in mine as 雪花. 違うの? 雪の結晶. Yuki said it's 雪の結晶. I didn't know what snowflake was. Nice. Oh, Hadrian says, これは何ですか? By the way, if you want to write in Romaji a question, that's perfectly fine. I'll read Romaji. You don't need to use hiragana. Or you can copy and paste someone's question and add an emoji yourself. これは何ですか? Says Hadrian. それは宇宙人です. That's an alien. Seabolt says, I like Google's IME a lot. Oh, I've never used Google's IME. I have heard good things about that, though. Sayokora says, okay, please, yes, make a video. Ian says, Sayokora, if you have Windows 10, you can add Japanese as a preferred keyboard in the settings, and it'll download it for you. That's true. それは Nintendo ですね, Patrick. あれ? どこが? Did Patrick's picture actually show up as a Nintendo? Nintendo. His mushroom. Okay. Kinoko desu. All right, there's so much. これはなんですか? Says Montana Margo. Wow, I can't see that. それは火山です. That's a volcano. 火山. I was hoping it would catch you off guard. It did. It was a good one, though. Floppy. I learned a new word today. Aubergine says, これは何ですか? それは柴犬です. Shiba Inu desu. It's a Shiba dog. Shiba Inu desu. Shiba is actually a place in Japan. Shiba-ken. And that's where they're from. There's also other dogs from different prefectures, and they're like Akita. Akita Inu. Akita Inu is from Akita-ken. I'm jealous of your insanely low lag time. That came through as you said it. My lag time is always like 15 to 20 seconds. Now, Seabolt, there's a reason for that. I kept forgetting to change my stream latency to low latency. Recently I've had it on normal. I always forget. And that's why you'll have a 15 to 20 second lag. If you change your latency to low latency, you may have issues like I had earlier, but you'll have nearly instant question and answer time. All right. What did I miss? Ian says, それは犬です. Nice. これは何ですか? Says Romores. それはラーメンです. Ramen 食べたいな. I want to eat ramen so bad. I want to go out to sushi. I want to go out to ramen, but I can't. Ramen 食べたいな. But I gotta stay in my house. Oh well. Gregory says, これは何ですか? それはユニコーンです. Unicorn です. My band's name is Steampunk Unicorn. Steampunk Unicorn. それはラーメンですよ. Says it's Melvin. Nice. これは何ですか? それは禁煙の看板です. That is a no smoking sign. 禁煙の看板です. A no smoking sign. これは何ですか? 乾杯, says Dan. That is a beer. Nice. これは何ですか? Says Aubergine. それはうんこです. うんこ. Or うんち. But I would say うんこ. Poop. うんこ. Japanese people love to talk about unko. You'll find that. Kids love it. Adults love talking about it. It's perfectly not it's not a taboo subject here. In America, we never talk about that. In Japan, you're going to be shocked with how much you have conversations about if you went to the bathroom that day. On we go. Okinawa soba is better than ramen. I like Okinawa soba. It's very good. I used to work at a Okinawan restaurant here in Nagano. I started working there. I worked there for a year on Saturdays after work, like as a second job, to practice Japanese. That's the reason that I worked there. I wanted to get better at Japanese, so I asked if I could work. I went to that bar or restaurant, I guess, with some friends, and my friend joked asking if he could work there. And I was like, yeah, I want to work here too so I can practice Japanese. And the owner was like, okay, when do you want to start? So I did. I worked there for a year, and it helped my Japanese a lot. And I got to eat lots of Okinawan soba, which was awesome. Yuki says, それはunpiri-chan desu. Unpiri-chan is another way, or the way that she likes to say poop. Especially when she's talking about her dog going to the bathroom. Unpiri-chan. But unko is probably the way you want to say it. そうですか. Kinoko wa Nintendo desu. Arigato, Yuki-san, says Patrick. It's the Nintendo Kinoko, which is Kinoko is mushroom. You have music? How the crap did I not know that? How have I missed that? It's terrible. It's not terrible. I mean, we threw together an album right before I left Japan to go become a monk because I thought we weren't going to be able to. We needed to throw something together for the next drummer to come in and be able to know what we were playing. But then we just released it as an album for fun. But we could do better. So yeah, we were supposed to actually play 2 live shows, one this month, a couple last weekend, and one at the end of March, but they all got canceled for you know what. So we're actually going to start practicing via Zoom. We're going to try and see if that works out. And I'm trying to convince them that if it works, I'm not sure how the latency will be. The latency might not work, but if it does work, we're totally going to stream a live show. Maybe here on ToKini Andy, we'll see. Maybe on Twitch. Anyway, also, ここ一番屋. Why any American fast food chain? Yes. Gregory says, Japanese people love to talk about poop. Yeah. Akira Toriyama made lots of jokes about them in his mangas. Yes. これは何ですか?それは鬼です. Aubergine. それは鬼です. That's a, I guess you'd call it a demon, but sort of. But oni. Coco, heart. Quick question from earlier, but R. これはカバンじゃないですね。これはカバンじゃないですか? Both acceptable sentences. Yes, they are. これはカバンじゃないですね. That's like you want you want to confirm. This isn't a bag, right? これはカバンじゃないですね. Like, you're pretty sure it's not a bag, but you want the person you're asking to confirm to you that it's not a bag. これはカバンじゃないですね. ですよね would probably be a better way to say it. ですよね but よね is covered later. Losing my voice. これはカバンじゃないですか? How would I translate that? これはカバンじゃないですか? これはカバンじゃないですか? This isn't a bag, right? I guess it's sort of the same. Sort of the same, that one. Both acceptable. Sorry, I didn't put a space first time. No worries, got it. Cool, says Silmarie. Dr. Slump Arare... Dr. Slump Arare-chan. 誰?
That manga book by
Ah, okay. I see. His manga's name. Torirara Nantoka Akira. Right. Toriyama Akira. His anime. Okay. Oh, he's the guy that made Dragon Ball. Okay. Dan says you can even use desu ka ne. Yeah, that would work too. これはカバンじゃないですかね? This isn't a bag, right? Yeah, it's basically the same. Both are acceptable. All right. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for hanging out. Please hit the like button if you haven't done that already. I really appreciate that. That helps this get out there for more people to see. The robotics guy says, perfect. Thank you. You're welcome. And チャンネル登録お願いします. Please subscribe if you haven't. いいねを押してください means please hit that like button if you haven't. Thank you for hanging out, guys. This is a long stream. This is an hour and 50 minutes, but I really enjoyed it. And I hope you did too. Next week will be the question and answer stream on this lesson. So it'll be a question and answer stream. If you were here last week for the question and answer stream, you know that most of the questions were based on lesson 1. So most of the questions in the next one will be based on lesson 2. But you don't need to limit your questions to lesson 2. If you have questions on the current lesson you're covering in Genki, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm more than happy to answer any question. It doesn't even have to be about Japanese, but I'll be here to answer your questions for an hour or two next Sunday. On Tuesday, I will be streaming a game. I don't know what the game is because I finished Undertale. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, yeah, that'll be happening. Thank you to the 3 people who... Is it 3 people? Let me make sure I call you guys all out because you're the best. You're all the best. But these guys... let's see. Wendell, Alberto, and Ian, thank you so much for becoming patrons. I just wanted to call you out and thank you guys here on stream for that. Also, Dan, just want to let you guys know, is about to premiere a new video over on his channel immediately after I shut the stream down. So if you hit that link that he just popped up, you'll get to see his video next. So if you guys want to go hang out and chat over there, I will be over there as well, watching with him. So go check his out. And also check out his Inunaki Tunnel video. That thing blew up today. So that's pretty awesome. So anyway, I see lots of people saying thank you for being here and making these streams just so much fun to do every time. When will be the next stream? Says Melvin, the next lesson, so lesson 3 will be in 2 weeks on Sunday. The question and answer one will be next week on Sunday. また来週ね, says Albertine. また来週. See you next week. Thank you. Also, come hang out and chat in my video. Yes. I'm about to sign up also. I like supporting people who make awesome stuff. Thank you, Seabolt. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I wanna be on your live stream sometime. So send me a message about that. It'd be a lot of fun. Oyasumi Andy, says Ian. Thanks, man, says Dan. When will the next lesson be? Yes, it'll be in 2 Sundays will be lesson 3. Next Sunday will be the question and answer. Same time. The next regular stream, game stream, will be on Tuesday at 8 p.m. JST, so 1 hour earlier than this one started. Sil Marie says, thank you. I enjoyed it too. Thank you, Sil, for being up so late for this. Gonna sleep. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you, everyone. Arigatou gozaimashita. Mata ne, says, Yuki said, be careful from that thing I'm not allowed to say on stream. And everyone, go hang out in Dan's. Oh, yeah, and hit the Discord too. Yeah, I'll DM you. Thank you. All right. So go click on Dan's link to go watch his video. I'm going there too. And have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much. See you next time. I'm gonna play this quick. 日本語勉強したいのか？俺と同じ風に日本語を喋れるようになりたいのか？この本持ってるのか？ Then we're here to help. え、そうなの？俺は無理って言おうと思った。On the ToKini Andy Patreon, we have listening and shadowing practice, Genki vocabulary practice, Genki textbook practice where Yuki, Ando, and I are your partners. Eventually, even workbook practice. え、そうなの？給料出る？
確かに。
Yeah, sure.
給料出るんだ。
After Genki 1, we'll be covering Genki 2, and eventually even intermediate textbooks. Detailed grammar lessons and Japanese Q&As will, as always, be on the YouTube for free. ToKini Andy Patreon, live right now. よろしくね。
よろしくお願いします。
Also, thank you, Miguel, and everyone else here who is also a patron. I was just calling out the new guys earlier, but thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Goodbye!